NSSF is here at the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Training Center. We're talking with USA shooting athletes about Olympic-style shooting. Here with me is Ginny Thrasher, who's a gold medalist for USA shooting, what she's got right here.
Yep.
So, Ginny, tell us a little bit about your sport.
Yeah, so I started shooting when I was 14 years old after I went hunting with my grandpa. And I went hunting and I realized I don't really like hunting that much. It's a little bit boring. Don't tell my grandpa I said that. It's a little bit boring, it's cold, but I really loved pulling the trigger. So the next year I went to high school and my high school had a varsity air rifle team. And I had no idea the first day I showed up at the range to try air rifle out what an impact it would have on my life. I didn't know that I would be doing it all throughout high school. I would get recruited and a college scholarship to go shoot it at a university. I would go to the Olympics. I would live as a resident athlete at the Olympic Training Center. I would win an Olympic gold medal, set world records. You know, I had no idea the impact it would have on me at that moment. But in my unbiased opinion, I just think it's the best sport ever.
So it was your high school air rifle team. What was the process like transitioning from high school to college to now an Olympic gold medalist?
Yeah, so when I was shooting in high school, I wasn't really aware when I started how far you could go in the sport. So as I started shooting more, I started attending summer camps for shooting with the CMP and with some of the universities. And then I started qualifying for Junior Olympics out here in Colorado Springs and kind of realizing the sport could take me further, including into the NCAA. So once I found out about shooting in the NCAA, I decided that, yes, this is something I want to pursue. And I started touring different colleges and looking at what that would be like to shoot in college. I decided that if you're going to do something, you want to do the best you can at it. So I wanted to go to West Virginia University. They were the #1 school at the time, #1 school in history. And they had my major, and I just loved the environment and the coaching staff, and I knew I could really succeed there. So my junior and senior year of high school were kind of enveloped with the recruiting process, and by fall of my senior year, I had signed with WVU to go shoot there for them. And then after that, I ended up qualifying for my very first international team. So I went to some World Cups my senior year, and it really opened the doors of, yes, this is what I want to do. Like, this has been my goal to qualify for international competitions, and now I'm doing it. So I went to college, and I was this, wide-eyed 18-year-old, away from home for the first time, and just really shooting for the first time as much as I wanted to, and having just this influx of knowledge and coaching and mindset training and everything. And I just started getting better and better and better until NCAAs came around my freshman year. And when that came around, I was shooting very well, maybe #1 on my team, and my team was #1 in the country. So I was shooting very well, but I didn't really expect anything out of NCAAs. I went there and I had the championships you would dream of. And I ended up winning the air rifle portion, winning the small bore portion as well, becoming the youngest individual in history to ever do that in the same year. And we won the team championship.
Oh, wow. Okay,
yeah.
Quite the college shooting experience then.
Exactly. So that was an amazing start to my freshman year of college.
Oh, that was in your freshman year?
This was my freshman year.
Oh my gosh. Where do you go from there? What's sophomore, junior, senior year like after that?
Well, before we got to sophomore, junior, senior year, we had to go to Olympic trials. So 3 weeks after NCAA championships was Olympic trials. And I remember, talking to my coach in college and being like, I don't know if I want to go, I've missed so much school already. I definitely was kind of an underdog going in. I was probably ranked top 5 in the nation, but, we had former Olympians competing and everything. And he was like, nope, you're going to go learn, and that's our focus so that you, in 4 years down the road, when the next Olympic trials come up, that you have this experience to draw on. I was like, okay, I'll go. And I ended up winning by quite a wide margin. And in that year, how the selection system worked is you only went to the Olympics if you won the Olympic trials.
Oh, wow.
Second place, not happening.
And that's different now, right? Now they take the top few, right? Or they still only take the top one?
So it changes every quad, every 4 years going into the Olympic Games. So depending how many spots we win for the country depends if it's the top person who goes or the top 2 that goes, etc. But the maximum you can have is 2 athletes per event. So women's air rifle, 2 athletes, men's air rifle, 2 athletes.
Wow, and that's the cool thing about the trials, right? I'm just learning this as I'm here interviewing and talking to you athletes. Is the trials you start fresh, right? It's everyone comes in on an even playing field, and you compete, and you came and you won, and then went to the Olympics.
Yes, exactly. So after I made the team, that was around April 1st of 2016. I started on this summer of just a new country every other week, just all this training and preparation, because once you make the team, then you actually have to go to the Olympics, right? So it was a really fun summer, just full of a lot of growth and training everywhere. And in August, I went to the Olympics, and I was 19, which is very young for the shooting sports. And I think I was ranked like 28th in the world. And I knew exactly what I was capable of, and I kind of had this great balance of there was no expectation on me. You know, there were people who were expected to win, which is a very tough scenario to be at. And for me, I didn't have any of that expectation, but I had pure confidence in my ability. And, you know, I did a good job. The team around me did a good job of kind of like keeping me in this bubble. And I ended up going, and I shot. What happens is you shoot a qualification match. So everyone at the Olympics shoots a qualification match. Back then it was 40 shots for women's air rifle. And then what they do is they take the top 8 scores. So those top 8 athletes go into the final. And the final starts again from 0. And it's called a knockout elimination final. So you shoot a few shots, and then you say, 8th place, you're out, sit down.
That's it, it's just a few shots?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Then you shoot a few more. 7th place, you're out, sit down. And then last man or woman standing wins. Wow. So for me, I've always been a very strong finals shooter. That's kind of my bread and butter. So I knew that if I made the final, that it was going to go well. And I remember shooting the qualification, and I didn't even look at the scoreboard. I came off the line to the national coach, and I said, it's okay, we're going to make the final in small bore, which was my next event. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, it's okay, we're going to make the final in small bore. He's like, Ginny, you made the final now. We got to go.
Oh my gosh, you didn't even know.
I didn't even know. Yeah, I was.
You're too dialed in.
Yeah, I was dialed in, and I also just was young and oblivious, to be honest with you. So I made the final, and I did a really good job putting myself in the right mindset for that final. And, you know, I maybe started the final in 3rd position, and by the time we were 1/3 of the way through the final, I was in 1st. And once I took over 1st, I never let it go. So I stayed in 1st the entire time, and the women who came in silver and bronze were actually former gold medalists in this exact event. Oh, one from 2012 and one from 2008, both from China. And I was the youngest in the final by like 6 years. Yeah, no one really expected it, but I knew exactly what I was capable of, and I shot what I would call just a textbook final, just exactly what you would want to shoot. And the cool part about women's air rifle is it's the very first event of the entire Olympics. So when an American wins that event, it is such great publicity for the shooting sports, for the USA, you know, for that person as an individual. So by 8:30, I had started competing, and by 10:30, I was on the podium.
Wow.
And for the first 24 hours of that Olympics, I was America's only gold medalist. I didn't realize it at the time, of course, but looking back on it now, such an amazing opportunity for the sport. And I've had so many people come up to me since then and say, I saw you on TV and that's why I started shooting. And it was how powerful to have that impact when you're 19 and you don't even know. Like, you're not trying to have that impact,
right,
you know, but quite an amazing part of my career has been so far the the legacy and contribution I've been able to give back to the sport that kind of started in that moment and then has continued since then.
That's really, really incredible, and congratulations. That's,
Thank you.
quite a feat. And like you said about passing on, like your TikTok videos and your willingness to share your insights and your tips and your training, because it's hard to break into Olympic style and Olympic level shooting. So to hear straight from a gold medalist, I think is inspiring the nation. So
yeah, and social media is one of those things I never thought I would become an influencer. But after I graduated college, so, after the Olympics, I went back to West Virginia University. I was the most famous person in the entire state. And it was full of amazing opportunities, but it was also a really hard adjustment. We don't expect to be famous as rifle shooters, But I went through the next 3 years, and I got my degree in biomedical engineering. And every winter, I would shoot on the NCAA circuit, and every summer, I would shoot on the international circuit. And it was just a great amount of fun. But once I graduated in 2019, I moved out here to the Olympic Training Center. And was pushing very hard to make the Tokyo 2020 Olympics when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And when COVID hit, I had many months where I didn't have competitions. I was still able to train, thankfully, but I didn't have competitions. You couldn't really do anything. And at that point, I decided to take up social media. And I told myself, okay, I'm gonna post consistently every other day on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, I'm on it, right? Every other day for a year, no matter what happens. If it takes off, if I look silly, no matter what happens, I'm gonna post every other day for a year. And after a year, then I can decide whether I wanna keep doing it or not. And the first 6 months were really tough. It's a lot of work, I didn't have my systems down. People were like, what's she doing, And I didn't really start getting the followers or, the brand deals or the sponsorships, all the things I thought I would get, they hadn't come yet. But I said every day for a year, and I'm a woman of my word, so that's what I did. And by the time I got to the end of that year, there was no question in my mind that I would keep doing it, because I saw the difference it made on the community. And I saw how much it meant to people that when they messaged me on Instagram and said, hey, I'm struggling with this in my shooting, I would respond. And it's just been quite interesting, because most people have social media kind of for themselves, right?
Yeah.
And to kind of flip my mindset of I have social media for the community, not for myself.
Especially to be a direct resource. If you're on there actively answering questions, that's a whole nother level. You're providing training tips, but now you're providing individualized training tips, so you can reach so many more shooters. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's been fun, and I don't believe that knowledge should be what separates us, right? I don't think I should be the best because I have more knowledge or better coaching or better equipment. I want everyone to have that knowledge, that coaching equipment, everything, all the advantages. And then I want to kick your butt because I'm better than you, because I worked harder.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's great. Yep. So speaking of kind of the tips and tricks you share online, is there any kind of specific tips that you would want to share with some of our average everyday shooters?
Yeah. So this is one that it doesn't matter what discipline you do. It doesn't matter what kind of gun you shoot. Come to the range with a written training plan. If you want to get better, you have to know what you're working on that day. And what I see with a lot of people who come to the range, with the main goal of having fun, which is no problem, that's my goal a lot of days too, right? Is they don't have a plan, and then kind of the emotions just take over of, oh, I shot really well, so now I'm gonna do X, or oh, I'm not shooting well, so now I have to do, and that kind of lets your mindset run wild. Whereas if you have a plan and you write it down of this is what I'm gonna do, this is what game I'm gonna play, this is what drill I'm gonna do, this is a range of shots I'm gonna take, then all of a sudden the purity of the sport is able to come out more. So that's something that I take from my training even when I, go plink around with other guns.
Yeah, wow, that's a great insight. I have never heard that before, but that's absolutely transferable to any discipline, which is
It
great.
is transferable to any discipline, and the thing is, nobody does it. So just the simple effort of writing down a training plan, even if it's not a great training plan or the best training plan, just the simple effort of doing that is already putting you in the 90th percentile.
That's awesome. So using a training plan or getting better, how would the average shooter, do you have any tips or advice for a shooter who wants to break into Olympic style or Olympic level shooting?
Yeah, if you want to break into Olympic style shooting, the best thing you're going to do is find a club near you that does that. So whether that's rifle, pistol, or shotgun, there are clubs all around the country that focus or have divisions that focus on Olympic style shooting. So finding a club is very helpful because a lot of times they have equipment and then you can borrow that equipment. And when you can borrow that equipment and they have coaching, then all of a sudden you can see if you like it. The Olympic shooting sports are not the cheapest version of the shooting sports. So it's really great to borrow that equipment and then you can slowly invest over time. That's one thing my high school team and the club that we shot at was so good about, is we purposefully were the cheapest sport in all of the high school because they didn't want people to be, turned away because of the cost. And you had a few items you had to buy mandatory, right? Like buy your own glove, so that you have that, whatever. But that was after your freshman year. So your freshman year, you could use all of the clubs saying, you could slowly build up your pieces, and then going into your, your second year on the team, you could still use the club's gun and the club's pellets, and you had to spend $200 on a jacket, which is pretty reasonable, right? But if you wanted to invest more, if you were like, I really like this, I want to buy my own gun, I want to buy, a nicer version of the suit, then you could. So it left a lot of room that way. And there's a lot of clubs around the country that are set up in that way. So the number one advice I have, is to go find a club and just start. You don't have to figure out, well, what kind of gun or what brand do I want? Just go find a club near you and start. And then follow me on social media for tips.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. You and USA Shooting too. USA Shooting social media, and check out usashooting.org. So you guys have resources all across the country as well.
Yes, there's my favorite resource on the USA Shooting website is a list of book recommendations. And they're sorted by shotgun and rifle and pistol and mental game and how to make a training plan, and it's a really great resource on there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, yeah, definitely check that out, everybody. Awesome, thank you, Ginny. So you talked a little bit about the funding for USA Shooting and being an athlete and what that looks like. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the funds work for an Olympic team and for USA Shooting specifically?
Yeah, so most people don't realize this, but the Olympic sports in America are not government funded. So almost every other country in the world has government-funded Olympic sports. So that means at the beginning of the year, they get a budget, they know exactly how much they're getting, they know how to allot it, and it's typically a good budget that you can really work with. But in America, that's just not how it works. So what happens is our funding kind of comes from a few different sources. One of them being the number of medals we won in the last Olympics. So if we win a lot of medals in the Olympics, we get more funding, and it turns into a great virtuous cycle. But it's never enough, right? It's not enough to cover all of our training expenses, all of our, flights and hotels and entry fees at World Cups. It's not enough to cover everything we need. And the more money we have, the better able we are to support our athletes, and not just get athletes to the Olympics, that's not the goal, to get athletes successful at the Olympics, like I was able to be in 2016. So because of that, a lot of our money comes from donors, sponsors, and members. So USA Shooting donors who donate money to our cause, sponsors who have some sort of, exchange with us, and then our members. So a lot of people are like, well, I don't, have any reason to be a USA Shooting member because I don't shoot Olympic style. But actually, anybody can be a member, and we have this really cool fan club membership. And so with the fan club membership, that money comes to supporting the athletes directly, and you get to say, like, I'm a fan. I support the USA Shooting Olympic team. So that is where I would recommend most people start. It's the fan club membership.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so every individual can have a direct impact and help out the team, because there's plenty of us out there. I was pretty surprised myself to learn that we're not funded by the government, and that so many other countries are, especially in a country like America, where firearms are a big part of our history and big freedom for our population. That isn't, the case for many countries.
Yeah, and I think because in America there are so many different disciplines of shooting and different firearms, sometimes the Olympic sports get lost, which is really unfortunate, because at the end of the day, the Olympic sports have this huge platform for all of the shooting sports once every 4 years, where we can go wear the red, white, and blue on the podium and get national and international recognition, not just for the Olympic shooting sports, but for every different discipline. So it's kind of this misconception that, we are super well funded and money's never, but all of that could go help us to achieve our Olympic goals. So it's really important.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, so you've heard it here. Go to usashooting.org and become a member. Support our athletes on their road to Paris. Ginny, thank you so much for sharing your insights and telling your stories. And we wish you the best of luck.
Appreciate it. Bye, everyone.